Hello friends, welcome to our channel Knowledge Amplifier, and today in this particular video I am going to discuss some very important concepts with respect to big data with cloud computing domain. Okay, and if you are preparing for job opportunities related to data engineering or big data domain, then I am going to discuss some very important questions related to specific file formats widely used in Hadoop, which are frequently asked in this kind of roles related interview process as well. Okay, so stay tuned till the end. You will be understanding a lot about different file formats and how to use Hive in some specific use case to transform the one file format to another file format. Okay, so without any further delay, let's directly jump into our AWS management console. So if you see here, I have created one EMR cluster, okay, and I have given the name Hive for file. And I have also downloaded one PPK file so that I can enter in the master node using SSH. Okay, so I will click on this particular cluster and I have to make sure that for the master node in the inbound rule, SSH connection is enabled. Okay, so here you will go to below part and here you will click on this. So master node security group. Okay, it will open in a new window and see here security group name. This is the master one. I will click on that, right? And then here I will just verify in the inbound rule whether SSH is there or not, but it is not there. So I will just add that extra inbound rule which I have already discussed all these steps in our earlier session as well. So I'll be taking SSH and all IPv4 access I want to provide and I will save the rule. Okay, so in master node we have updated. Now we can easily log in the EMR using the master node public DNS. Okay, so this is the master node public DNS. I will be simply copying that one and then here I will be going to put the, okay, I will paste that. I will go to SSH authentication and I will browse the file. Okay, and AVRO testing, this is the PPK file name I have downloaded. I'll click on open and click on yes. Okay, and login as our default login. I will be providing Hadoop. Okay, so it is authenticated. To make sure it will not get timeout, so I will just change the setting. I will make this one to maybe 10,000 or something. Okay, I'll apply that, right? So while launching this EMR, I have configured such that Hive, Hadoop and Spark, these kind of basic applications will be installed. Okay, so now let's go to S3 and create some buckets where we can upload some data and play with Hive, right? So here I will go to S3. So my EMR is basically in Ohio region. So I'll be creating the S3 bucket also in Ohio region. Okay. So bucket name, let us try to give as ingestionhivetesting. Okay. Right. So here I'll be creating the bucket and I'll be pasting the name. Okay. Let it be in Ohio region. Keeping all other properties as default, I will create the bucket. Okay. And under the bucket, I will be creating 3 folders. Okay. Try to understand the importance of individual folder. So landing is one particular folder where our CSV data or text file data will be stored, right? Now in big data world, CSV file format data storage is not that much optimized, right? Because it never compress the data and neither it do some kind of mechanism so that the query execution will be optimized. So that's why we follow some other file format like AVRO, Parquet, ORC, etc. So today in this particular video, I am going to explain how you can convert CSV file to AVRO or CSV to Parquet using Hive. Okay, so first thing, we will be creating a folder where our CSV data or raw format data will be stored, and suppose that name is landing. Okay, so basically I will go to the bucket what we created and EMR will have access to this because it is in same region as of our EMR, and then here I will create the folder. Okay, so our base folder where basically CSV data will be stored is landing. Okay, then to store the AVRO data, what we are going to create from CSV file, we are going to store that in avronative folder structure. Okay, so I will create another folder and I will be giving the name avronative. Okay, I have created that. And for Parquet also, I will show you that how to convert CSV file to Parquet. So for Parquet also, Parquet native folder will be creating. Okay, so that's pretty much it, right? And now let me introduce with the data, right? So here the data I am using iris related information which is having ID Setusa, ID particular and ID Sparchinica related information, sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, kind of hello world dataset for any machine learning or data engineering role. So I am going to consider this one as our CSV file and we will try to convert this to AVRO and Parquet. Okay. So first step what we will do, we will go to landing layer and we will be uploading our CSV data here. Okay. So I'll add files here, all files. I'll be uploading that. Okay. See, it is uploaded. Okay. Even you can verify that from S3 command also, like AWS S3 LS or whatever you want to apply, right? So if I just go to all files, I can copy this particular one and I can go back to my notepad. I can paste this one. So I don't want till this layer. What I want, AWS S3 LS. Okay. I can run this particular one in here. See, here it is showing all files.csv what we uploaded. Or even you can do this way, Hadoop fs-ls. Okay, because Hadoop can use that one as basically HDFS, right? So that S3 files you can extract using Hadoop command also. Okay, see, it has given that S3 ingestion, hive testing, landing, all files CSV. Okay, so now our EMR is able to reach to that particular CSV file. Okay, now what we want to convert that CSV file to our big data file format. So let's first start with our AVRO file format. Okay, so I will open Hive. Okay, and then let's try to understand the queries and we will explore why AVRO we should prefer or why we should prefer Parquet. The comparison from interview point we will try to cover. Okay, so as a first step in Hive, what we are doing, we are creating a database. Okay, if not exist, which is firstdemo, and obviously the database is not existing, right? Because I launched a fresh EMR cluster, so I will be creating this particular database first. Okay, it will be taking some time, and it is done. 1.01 second it took, right? And now here, see what I am trying to do. Here I am trying to create an external Hive table pointing to our landing directory. Okay, so that it can read that particular CSV data. Okay, and see the schema I have defined following the CSV file. So if you see our file, ID is integer, sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width. You can easily understand these are double type, and last one is string type or Parquet type, right? So same thing I have defined here. ID integer, sepal length, sepal width, petal length are double type, and class name is string type. Okay, make sure here if you see that in CSV file the first row is basically header, right? So that's why I am defining here skip.header.line.count 1, so that the first row it will be ignoring. Okay, and then here serialization format is comma because that is CSV file, right? And what is the location? Here we are specifying. Okay, that is our landing there. Okay, so here I can execute this particular query simply in our Hive. Okay, and run enter. So it is going to take some time. See, it is done. And now you can basically use this particular table to query, okay, your data. You can execute this kind of query. Select star from this one. Limit 10. Maybe top 10 records. Let's see first. Okay. See, it is perfectly showing the data set. Okay, so we are able to read our CSV data. Okay, now we will try to convert this CSV to Parquet and AVRO. Okay, so what it is saying, this is the algorithm. Okay, you have to remember this very simple trick, that is to create an AVRO table, that is a table that will use AVRO file format, specify stored as AVRO. Okay, so remember this. So when you are using Hive table on top of CSV data, then you are mentioning this kind of format or syntax, right? That is what is the delimiter, row format delimiter, line delimiter, field delimiter, etc., etc., right? So for AVRO, you have to mention only this thing, stored as AVRO. So how the code will look? Create external table, firstdemo, our database we are using, and hello AVRO is table name which will contain the AVRO data, and then we are mentioning the same schema what we defined for our CSV file, and here we are mentioning stored as AVRO, so that Hive will ensure that this particular table is on top of AVRO data, okay? And the location we are mentioning the avronative, the particular directory what we created to store the AVRO data, right? That one we are mentioning here, avronative, okay? So let's execute this particular one and our AVRO file format table will be created, okay? So here it is done. Now we just created an AVRO table which is pointing to such location where no data is there, right? Currently in avronative we have not put any data. If you go to S3, here if you go to avronative, here currently no data is there. Even I can refresh and show you also. Now what we want to convert that CSV data what is stored in landing layer to AVRO data, and AVRO data we want to store here, okay? For that we can use Hive. So what we did first, we created an Hive table which is an external Hive table pointing to the CSV data in landing layer, and then we created an AVRO table in Hive which is pointing to this avronative layer, and then all we need to do, we need to execute one insert query. What we will do, we will take all the data from our CSV table, that is that particular Hive table which is pointing to the landing layer CSV data, and I will insert the data in our AVRO table, okay? That way automatically CSV to AVRO conversion will happen and the data will be sitting in this particular location, okay? Simple algorithm, okay? So I will be basically copying this particular one, and then here I will be running this particular one, okay? So here our map reduce is started. We have to wait little bit and soon it will be completing, and then we can see the AVRO data is stored in this avronative location. So let's wait for some time and see it is done, okay? So now what I will do, I will go back to here and I will refresh this particular page and see here we are able to get the AVRO file, okay? Same algorithm, suppose you want to store the data as Parquet from CSV, then just instead of stored as AVRO, you have to use stored as Parquet, okay? And then pointing to that location, then you have to execute one insert into query in that particular Parquet table from the CSV table. Then automatically the data in the Parquet location will be stored as Parquet file format, okay? So we will go to that, but what it is written, let's try to understand. Download the data and observe, okay? So let's download the data and we'll observe something. So here it is downloaded. All I will do, I will open, okay? So here I have opened that particular downloaded file with Notepad++, and here we are able to see the data, okay? So from this particular data itself, you can understand this is not a normal data. It is basically stored as compressed or binary kind of format, which is not that much easily human readable. But let's try to understand what it is written here, okay? One of the first thing you will notice when starting to read or work with AVRO is the schema is an integral concept, okay? So schema is basically closely connected with our AVRO file. Let's see that whether we can see that or not. Yes, when you start reading the AVRO file, here itself you are getting schema, right? And see this schema, it is storing as JSON data, okay? Here curly bracket is open and here curly bracket is closed. So remember this, in AVRO, this schema plus data, both are stored in AVRO file, okay? What it is stored? So type is record, okay? Name is hello AVRO, basically the particular Hive table name, okay? Namespace it is giving, and then fields, okay? Fields is basically individual columns, okay? So first column is ID column, the type is integer, and the default value is null. These are three important points for any column in AVRO file. One is type, second one is default, and then first one is name, okay? Then similarly see, sepal length is the name, type is double, and default is null. Similarly, sepal width is there. Yes, correct. In our CSV data, actually sepal width is there, right? So sepal width is there. It is again nothing but our double type, and default is null. Then petal length also same, double type, the default is null, and petal width also double type, and default value is null. And the last one is basically class name, which is string data type, right? And default value is null. So these are important points which you should keep in your mind. What are the characteristics of AVRO file? In AVRO, the schema is also stored as integral part of the file. That's what is highlighted here. Okay, I hope you are getting. Then here it is written, you can't write data to an AVRO file without having or defining a schema first. Okay, you cannot simply write the data in a AVRO file. First you have to define the schema and then only you can write your data. Okay, most commonly this schema is defined as JSON, which makes it very approachable. Okay, because the schema is stored as JSON, so it is very easy from human readability aspect, right? That's what is highlighted here, right? And then here let's try to work with Parquet also. So like with AVRO tables, we can create Parquet tables by specifying stored as Parquet, as I have already told you, right? So stored as Parquet, and then here we are giving the name Parquet native, okay, in this location. So here we have already created the location, right? If I go to our bucket, here you will see Parquet native is there, right? So in Parquet native, we are basically going to store our Parquet data, okay? So let's execute this particular one. It is done, and now I will insert the data from the CSV file format Hive table to our Parquet Hive table. Okay, let's execute that. So it is done. Okay, so Parquet data is stored. Now if I go back to here, and if I refresh this particular place, here you will see the Parquet data is stored. Okay, so this is how from CSV you can easily convert any data to Parquet or AVRO or ORC, whatever this kind of big data related file formats, right? I hope you are getting. Just first you have to create a Hive table which is pointing to that CSV location, and then you have to create an AVRO table or Parquet table which is stored as AVRO or stored as Parquet keyword, right, and pointing to their respective location, and then you have to insert the data from CSV to that corresponding Parquet or AVRO Hive table. As simple as that. Okay, I hope you are getting. Now, what are some very important interview questions and important points with respect to different file formats which are popularly asked in the data engineering related interview? Let's try to understand that. Okay, one of the very popular question is, AVRO format is row based or column based storage format for Hadoop? Try to understand this. From the file itself you can understand. Okay, so see here our schema is stored. Okay, that's fine. And now you see the data. Okay, the data is also stored as binary complex data for storage optimization, right? It is very hard to understand overall, but at least one thing you can understand, the class name. Okay, see IDs versicolor, these kind of class names are there, and that one you can easily detect in this particular file, right? See here one IDs versicolor is there, right? Then here another IDs versicolor is there. Then here another IDs versicolor is there, right? Then here another IDs versicolor is there. Here another IDs versicolor is there. So what I mean to say, that same column information, class name is basically one particular column, and this is having this IDs versicolor as string, right? Those are not present in same location. You can easily understand from this, right? One IDs versicolor is basically here, another IDs versicolor is here, right? But if it is column level storage or column oriented file format, then what should happen? Then all the same column information will be stored consecutive to each other. But here it is not happening like that. From the manual inspection itself you can see, right? So conclusion is no. AVRO is not a column oriented storage like Parquet. AVRO is basically row oriented storage format which is used in Hadoop world. Okay, I have already discussed that this Parquet is column oriented. ORC, optimized row columnar file format, are basically columnar file format, right? But here in case of AVRO, remember this very important point, that is it is row oriented file format. Okay, so first question I hope it is clear, that is it is row based. Okay, remember this very important interview question. And then let's go to the second question. Then the question is, when should we use AVRO? Okay, and this is very tricky question. So first you understood that AVRO data is stored as row oriented. Okay, now you just try to remember what is our row oriented and column oriented file format difference. Okay, so suppose you are having a table A, B, C at the column. A is basically integer, B is basically string, C is basically double type. Then for column oriented file format, it will be storing like this way. All the same column information will be stored all together. So 147, then maybe hello world hi, and then this double type. Okay, So this is how it is stored in case of column oriented file format, right? But for row oriented file format, how it will be stored? One hello 3.2, that is basically first row completely written. Then after that the second row will be written, that is 4 world 6.7, and after that the third row will be written 7 high 5.9, right? So this is how for row oriented file format it is stored, and this is how for column oriented file format it is stored. Okay, now you just think, suppose you have to read the complete data from the file, then which one is better? Very simple, right? It is obviously better that we are using row oriented file format, because anyway we are going to read the complete data from that file, right? But suppose we have to read some specific columns, okay, or suppose you are applying filter condition in a query, and that filter condition you are applying in a specific column, then for that kind of query optimization, easy of filtering purpose, or suppose you are selecting some specific columns, then because all the data related to a particular column are stored in same place, that time column oriented file format will be good. But suppose you are reading the whole data, then obviously you can understand that row oriented file format is good. So the answer of this question will be, usually when the downstream jobs, okay, downstream ETL pipelines retrieve the data from a file as a whole for further processing, then we can use AVRO. But suppose the downstream jobs are not selecting the whole file, rather they are selecting some specific columns, then we can go ahead with columnar file format like Parquet, right? I hope you are getting the feeling. And then next important point is schema change, okay? So if the schema got changed, or if schema evaluation happens, you can easily understand that AVRO can be a good choice. Why? Because schema is integral part of this AVRO file, right? Now suppose there is a new file coming where one extra column is added. Okay, just let's consider that the new file, I will be copying this particular same file and I'll be opening in a new notepad and I'll be pasting that. Suppose one particular new field is coming as a new column. Okay, maybe that name is class prediction or something. Okay, right? Type is string. Find default is, suppose let's consider default is NA. So let's consider, okay, so the default value it will be taking as NA, right? Now this is one particular file which is having one extra column added, and we are having our older file which don't have that particular column. Okay, now both of these files are present in same HDFS location or same S3 folder structure. Okay, now suppose you are executing a select query which is trying to pull the class prediction value. Okay, now in your new file, that is the second file, might be in default enclosed the class prediction value is there, but in your older file it is not there, right? Then what will happen? It will be taking the default value, because default value, if the class prediction is not present, then we have already written in the schema itself, you consider as NA, right? So what will happen when you will query to extract all the data for the class prediction column which is added newly as a new column or new field in your data, then if you try to query your older files, then for those rows which are coming from older files, it will be providing NA. Or suppose default is null. Okay, so for older files, it will be giving null for those rows, and for new rows, whatever having class prediction value, it will be providing that, right? So because this schema is integral part, that's why schema evaluation is a very simple process, and this is what is beautiful feature of AVRO file. And another very important interview question also, that is, if schema gets changed, using the default value we can specify what value it should be taking for older files data extraction, and for newer files whatever it is having the data, it will pull that. Okay, so schema change, schema evaluation, or if new column is added, for all this kind of scenario, AVRO is a good file format basically. Okay, then the next question can be asked, AVRO or Parquet, which one is better for analytical querying? Okay, very important question, right? So obviously the answer is Parquet. Why? Because Parquet is columnar file format. In analytical query, when you apply some filtering condition, you are applying filtering on a particular column, right? And then if your data is stored as row oriented file format, then applying filter condition is very difficult. Like just think, suppose you want to apply filtering on B column. Now data is stored in row oriented case like this way. So first it has to start from beginning and start scanning the file. First the B value for the first row, it will be getting here. Then again it will be getting here. Then again it will be getting here. So scanning is taking lot of time in the query, right? But in case of columnar file format, all the data related to a particular column is stored in one single place. So scanning will be much faster. So if you are applying analytical query, then most probably there will be some filtering condition or where clause, whatever you say, that time Parquet is a good representative. Okay. And then last question, which is another very important question, AVRO or Parquet, writing operation, in which case it is better. Okay. Try to understand. Very simple. Okay. So your data is like this. Hope you are easily getting that. Suppose you want to store in row oriented, you are just simply storing row by row. That's it. No difficult operation, right? But suppose you want to store the data in column oriented format, first you have to extract all the data for a particular column and put in one place. Then you have to go to next column, and then you have to traverse that particular column alone and extract all the data and put in another place. Then you have to go to third column and extract all the data related to that particular column and put in another place. So I hope you are getting from the fundamental intuition or fundamental manual inspection itself, you can understand that writing in this process is simpler than this way, right? So columnar file format has this disadvantage. Obviously advantage will come with disadvantage, right? So in columnar file format, it is helping you to optimize the query, but writing is bit time consuming. But for row oriented file format, it is faster because no such operation you are doing, we are just storing row by row. So for in between AVRO and Parquet, generally writing operation in case of AVRO is better. Okay. These are few important interview questions which I thought to discuss, and I hope you have got it how to basically convert the CSV data to AVRO or Parquet or some other file format using Hive. This is all for this video. I'll be providing all the codes in the description box or in the comment section. If you find this video helpful, then please like, share and comment, and don't forget to subscribe our channel and press the bell icon to get the notification of our latest videos. Thank you.